feel the summer coming. Good morning again, everybody. I'm so glad to see everybody. See some new faces, and we got some people that have been here in the past and have come back to join us. We welcome everybody here as we begin in just a few months to celebrate our 40th birthday party. So make sure and get that on your calendar. June 12th, the second Sunday. I believe it's the 12th. It's the second Sunday in June. We have a big birthday party. But for everyone here today in this moment, we are here. I do believe that, as I said in the meditation, it's quite impossible to be where you're not supposed to be. If we could only trust in that, our life would be so much easier. So many times, and I know myself, I just think, okay, I'm in traffic right now. It's going to take me 20 minutes to get there, so this is like a 20-minute void. You know, we're always going from here to there. And I try to remind myself all the time that every time is holy. Everything is sacred. I'm exactly where I need to be. It does make things a lot easier. So in March of 1905, a little boy was born in Austria who, by his presence and by his teaching and what he learned, changed what we know now as therapy in a lot of ways, and psychotherapy. His name is Viktor Frankl. Some of you may know his story. And he was a physician and had a fairly privileged upbringing as a child. And he was also taken to the concentration camps. He was rounded up with, unfortunately, this horrible situation that happened, in our world. He was part of that and was taken away in that situation, separated from his family, separated from his wife, his children. Most of his family perished. But because he had a gift to give, because he, was a physician and had something to give, they spared his life over and over so he could work for them, and do, unfortunately, they did all kind of horrible things, medical experiments. We won't go into that, but we know the story of the Holocaust. It's not a pretty sight. So because of that, he was able to live, and he survived the Holocaust and lived until 1997. So I don't know exactly what age that would be, but some of you mathematicians, that's pretty long. What's 1905 to 1997? 92, yes. I got all the creative side, I could do all this creative stuff, and you ask me to do math, and I'm like, anybody else like that? I can write an essay, like in college and in high school, I can write an essay, and I get all these big A's, and then math, I'd be like, huh? Actually, I almost didn't get my college degree because of advanced finance, which I had to take because I had a business minor, and I'm like, God. But anyway, I made it. But anyway, he was 92 years old. So he survived the Holocaust and lived to be 92 years old. And Viktor Frankl has become a hero of mine personally, not just because of surviving, but how he was able to take the situation that he was in and look at it differently than most of the other people that were there in that situation. He was one of the first people, at least that I know of, that came forth publicly as a professional and said, it's not the situation that you're in, it's how you look at it. It's how you see things. And I'm very humbled sometimes, and I think of him during a week when I think I'm having a big crisis or something, which ends up being something silly. And I think, wow, this man lived in a concentration camp, and he remained steadfast in his belief that there was still a great meaning in life. And it just humbles me to think about that. I mean, it makes my little story seem so insignificant. I suggest you look, even after a day, look up more about him. He's easy to find, online, and use him as a reminder when you think, if you got a past due bill, or I don't know, or something, or you think something's not going exactly right. Think, wow, this man really survived this horrendous situation and literally changed the world with his thoughts and ideas after he survived. I want to get this right. He was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist, as well as a Holocaust survivor. He was the founder of logotherapy, which is a form of existential analysis. So he had a best-selling book, which I've read, called Man's Search for Meaning, where he talked about, even in the concentration camp, how he realized at the deepest core of who he was, no matter what situation he was in, that everything had a great meaning. And he searched for meaning. And he not only searched for meaning and lived it fully, but he shared that with the world. One thing that I have found, and I try to use this also during, so I have my little toolbox, my spiritual toolkit sometimes, that I try to pull out. In order to do the spiritual pathway, you got to be prepared ahead of time. You can't wait till the crisis hits. And I got my little toolbox ready to go. And one thing that I have realized is that no matter, no matter what's going on in my life, there's always someone that has it a lot better than me, and there's always someone that has it a lot worse than me. And it is only a matter of how am I perceiving my life in this moment. At times when I worry if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm saying the right thing, if I'm doing the right things to lead this church, still I think about my life is someone else's dream life. My life is someone else's, my job is someone else's dream job. There's literally someone that's probably got a vision board wanting to be what I'm doing, And then I've got vision boards, in my mind at least. I don't really do the boards anymore, but I'm always thinking of it. What else someone else is doing. And I have to realize that I have to find great meaning in my life right now. One thing that I learned from being at the church now for 5.5 years is to stop focusing on the future and what's going to happen. And this is a very simple, thing. You've read The Power of Now and other books that teach us this. But I found myself for a long time just thinking, well, when I first came here, there was maybe 15 people that came here regularly. And I remember thinking, I want to get us to 100. And then, we've gotten up to the 60s and 70s, and then we kind of floated back and forth. And I found that it didn't do a service for me, and it did a disservice to everyone for me to be thinking that way. Because right now, everyone's exactly here where we need to be, and there's great meaning. There's a reason why you're here. And you may never come back in these doors again, and that's okay. Another great thing I learned is, we have our Wednesday night group and we have our Tuesday night group. And on Wednesday night, when we have meditation, Course in Miracles, I would put out all these pamphlets about, our Sunday morning service. And I was using it as a way to promote the Sunday morning service, And now after doing this I've been doing the meditation 4 years, it's occurred to me that we are there for a holy purpose. I'm not there to promote people to get them here on Sunday. We're there perfectly together for a holy purpose in that moment. And they may not even want to come on Wednesday. Because you'd be surprised, and Paul can probably tell you this, many people that come to our Tuesday and Wednesday groups, people that you would never see and hear. Meetup is a great way that draws people in based on categories of things. We put something in a meetup about chakras, and you have someone that may come in for that, but they might even show up on a Sunday. And it's been so rewarding for me personally to realize that our Wednesday night and our Tuesday night is not an ad for Sunday morning. Our Tuesday and Wednesday night is an extension of our spiritual community, and some of those people will never come on a Sunday morning. We're all in this together. We're all here to share our experiences and hopefully to support each other, and as I said earlier, to remind each other of our magnificence. My friend David Alt has this beautiful song that says just that. I'm here to remind you of your magnificence. And just as I can look at someone's life that I may see over here, maybe someone homeless, and I can look over here at a friend of mine who's been very successful in business that I get jealous of sometimes. And I think, wow, I wish I could be there. I'm glad I'm not there. And I realize all along the spectrum, from wherever you are, we're all on that spectrum somewhere. And I don't know if you're like me, but human nature tends to be either looking up or looking down. We're either looking up, trying to grasp at something, or we're looking down, either having compassion or trying to help someone. And what I love about unity, and I try to practice this all the time, and the French Quarter is a great place to do that because there's a lot of homeless people. It's such a great practice to look at someone beyond their appearance. And even if you can verbally say it, and say, you are not that situation. You are a holy, blessed child of God who has temporarily forgot who you are. That is so powerful to do that when you see, when I see someone homeless, I do that all the time. And I do share food and I do share dollars. Somebody asked me once, how do you deal with all the homeless people? And I say the same way I deal with everybody else in my life is I ask the Holy Spirit what to do in that specific moment. Because it's always going to be different. There's not one way to really do this. Sometimes I get a clear message, give her $5. One is just to say hello and keep walking. It's different in every situation. But Viktor Frankl, back to him, magnificently learned that the meaning of life is found at a much deeper level than what's happening in our life and the circumstances of our life. At the highest level, I mean, you can't get worse than being in a concentration camp. I tell you, I'm such a wimp, I probably wouldn't last a day in there, honestly. I mean, we don't know what we would do in those situations, but I can imagine that it would be very difficult. And then to see goodness in it. You know, Anne Frank was such a great example of that too, from the same era. You know, she said at the end, even when the Nazis took her away, she said still, and I'm paraphrasing, but she's still at the core, I believe, that man, woman, all of us are good. Wow, to be able to say that when you're being hauled away is magnificent. So I have some quotes from Viktor Frankl. I'm going to put a couple of those over. This is so powerful, and it's what unity is about in a lot of ways. Viktor Frankl said, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And this, there's never been a truer statement than this. Everything can be taken from you. Everything can be taken from you. But one thing. The last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And let's go on and do the other one while we're looking at some of his quotes. I mean, we could endlessly go through this. I love this too. This reminds me of meditation a lot. Victor said, between stimulus and response, in other words, something happens and you get ready to respond to it, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That's that gap that I sometimes talk about. Now that I'm getting older and hopefully a little bit wiser, I do the 60-second test before I say anything. Because man, when I was young, I had a mouth on me. I know you probably can find that hard to believe. I'm such an angel. I mean, and I would use my wit to prove people wrong all the time, and I was good at it. I was the best person on the debate, and I would love it. I could tear somebody to shreds. I did. Trying to be right. And I realized that the reason I was trying to be right is that I didn't fully believe what I was arguing about. You know that? If you argue with somebody, you're arguing with yourself. Chew on that one a little bit. If someone says something to you and it pushes your buttons and you get in the face and argue, it's because you don't fully believe what you say you believe. Because when we accept our true self and we accept our meaning, just as Victor did, then there's nothing to defend. We don't defend ourselves. And this is not a judgment, but it's a really quick way to grow if you really want to grow and get rid of all that stuff within us. But I'm so glad to be at an age where I stop. If someone says something and I get that, I count down from 60. Of course to myself, because I don't want to be hauled off by somebody, thinking I'm nuts. Well, we're probably past that point, but I stop. And just like he said, there's a space between the stimulus and the response. When someone says something to you, when you read something on Facebook, or you hear about something, or wrong that's been done, or whatever, in that space is your power to choose your response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That's where you find freedom, in that space. Another way to look at this, and also a way to look at finding meaning in everything, is that Course in Miracles tells us that any time that you interact with another person, for one, it's a holy encounter, and it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen. And when you interact with someone, it is quite impossible to be attacked, either verbally or otherwise. Anytime someone interacts with you, they're either extending love to you or they're crying for help. Period. Now, of course, we use common sense with these things. If you're being physically attacked, you get up, you call the police. That's not what I'm trying to say. You don't become a doormat. But what it does is it changes you within as you begin to see that. And it's very hard to do. It's easy to stand up here and say it, blah, blah. Like Charlie Brown's teacher, remember, wah, 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 wah. But it's a very difficult thing to do, but it will change your life. And just like he says with this, in our response lies our growth and our freedom. I always have to say it's an inner job. It's always an inner job. Always. I could talk about Victor all day long. I want to just read something, though, to make sure that I say it right. He spent several months in concentration camps, as I mentioned. He was liberated. He returned to Vienna, where he developed and lectured about his own approach to psychological healing. Frankl believed that people are primarily driven by, quote, striving to find meaning in one's life. Anybody else just have that feeling? Like, what does all this mean sometimes? Man, I do. Like, what does this mean? Like, what's going on? And that is this sense of meaning that enables people to overcome painful experiences. That brought thoughts. So he's talking about whenever he had painful experiences while he was in the concentration camp, and he was walking along with some other men. At some point, he actually had to do hard labor, which doesn't sound good. I can't imagine what it was. During his painful experiences, this is what he said: that brought thoughts of my own wife to my mind. As we stumbled on for miles, slipping on icy spots, supporting each other time and again, dragging one another up and onward, nothing was said, but we both knew each of us was thinking of his wife. Occasionally, I looked at the sky where the stars were fading and the pink light of the morning was beginning to spread behind a dark bank of clouds. But my mind clung to my wife's image, imagining it with uncanny acuteness. I heard her answering me, saw her smile, her frank and encouraging look. Real or not, her look was then more luminous than the sun which was beginning to rise. A thought transfixed me. For the first time in my life, I saw the truth, and it is set into song by many people, proclaimed as the final wisdom by many thinkers. The truth that love is the ultimate and highest goal to which man can aspire. Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. That salvation is through love and in love. I understand how a man who has nothing left in this world may still know bliss, be it only for a brief moment in the contemplation of his beloved, in a position of utter desolation when man cannot express himself in positive action, when his only achievement may consist in enduring his sufferings in the right way, an honorable way. In such a position, man can, through loving contemplation of the image he carries of his beloved, achieve fulfillment. For the first time in my life, I was able to understand the meaning of these words. The angels are lost in perpetual contemplation of an infinite glory. Wow, he was in touch. And as I said, I would suggest, if you're not familiar with this story, to read about him. He did magnificent things with psychotherapy and helping people to grasp the meaning of their own life, working with them individually. And he wrote books which really changed modern psychotherapy. A lot of times, I know for me at least, I feel that meaning has something to do with my occupation or my job. But as this quote tells us, that can be taken away from us. Many times we find meaning in our partner. People we're in love with. And that can be a dangerous slippery slope, because that love can sometimes change, and that person can also transition. And that's what he's talking about in this quote, that everything can be taken away from us. Everything. Except this one thing. Our ability to find freedom in our thoughts and our ideas. And this is also the secret to changing our life as well. Because the Fillmores, the co-founders of Unity, taught us over and over that when they understood who they were, Myrtle said that her healing came when she understood the meaning of her life was here to be alive, that she was a holy child of God. Everything changed for her. This goes right along with the talk I did, I guess a couple months ago, called Who Do You Think You Are? And this has to do with our meaning in the sense that our meaning transcends what we're doing in the physical world. It transcends our job. It transcends our children. It transcends our cats. All of those things. Our meaning lies deep within us. And I just try to keep it simple. you know. They used to say kiss, keep it simple, stupid, but I cut off the stupid part. We don't even call yourself stupid. But sometimes I do believe on the spiritual journey, we can make this way too complicated. Way too complicated. Some of you may have heard the story back in 1992. A friend and I decided we're going to be all spiritual. Everybody remember the Golden Leaves bookstore? Mm-hmm. If you're here a long time in New Orleans, you remember that? And Life's Journey used to be right here in the Taekwondo building. And we decided we were going to Golden Leaves and reading all these books and going all these stuff. We were going to get all spiritual. So we decided to go to this transcendental meditation group where they were actually you could go for exploration and they would tell you about it. And then you could decide if you wanted to join the group and do it. So we went and we were like feeling all special and spiritual and stuff. And I tell you, when I left there, I was like, my friend's name was Lydia. I was like, Lydia, you should be watching today. Hey, girl. No, she's a minister now, so she should be on the speaking as well. But I said, man, there's so much stuff you have to do to meditate. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. I said, I won't get done till noon. You know, I sleep late anyway. I'll be doing this till noon. Going out and picking a sacred flower, and it's got to be something right out of the earth in that moment, and have the sacred robes, and curl your legs in a way that's unnatural to the human body, and have the certain type brand of incense, and the certain pillow. Man, it was just way too much. I'm serious. And it was like $1,000 to do it. And at the time, that seemed like a whole lot to me. And it wasn't even the money. I thought, I'll get up the money to do it. But man, I don't think I can't do this. Like, when would you eat? When would you sleep? I mean, meditating all days. I might as well just move to India and just stay curled up the rest of my life. And when it boils down to it, all of this is very, very simple. And I use that as an example to say, meditation is so simple and so still. As a matter of fact, Paul and Brenda are having a wonderful class on Tuesday about moving meditations and different types of meditations that you can do, because meditation doesn't have to be silence. You know, you've heard me talk about this over and over. I think silence is the quickest way to that inner journey, but there's all kinds of ways. Sometimes I feel that when I'm jogging on the treadmill, just out of the blue, I just get into this transcendent mode that's just clear and open, and I find answers, and I get resolutions. Tai Chi and all these different things. So what are you guys going to be doing? Is that one of the forms? What's some of the stuff on Tuesday night for moving meditation?
That, walking meditation, dancing and shaking, and just...
And some movement. We've been looking for Tai Chi. We've done a little bit, but I need to refresh my memory.
Good.
So whatever we can get in there in time.
So see, this is a great way, these classes on Tuesday, a great way. If you have problems sitting still in the silence, anybody have an issue with it's hard? Just sitting still? I mean, it sounds so easy, doesn't it? Clear your mind. Just don't think. Just don't think. That sounds so easy, doesn't it?
You spend your time thinking about not thinking.
Yes, spend thinking about not thinking, exactly. Yeah, and but I have found that if I commit to do it, no matter what happens, and I'll stop judging myself. I'll set the little timer and do it, even if I'm cussing the whole way, you know. But that's also where we find meaning. And that's kind of the point of this whole thing, is that, for one, it's very simple. And if Viktor Frankl can find meaning and peace and joy in the situation that he was in, so can we. I went to an art gallery last night. Her name is Chris Antieau, I believe. It's Antieau. Any New Orleans know how to pronounce that? Antieau? It's one of those New Orleans ones that I know I'm not going to get it right, because we say Bapomini and all these. Antieau? Okay. It's confirmed by 3 New Orleans. So, because you know, we say stuff different down here, like Calliope and Melpomene. I won't get into all that. But anyway, I went, and I was so, it was beautiful and strange at the same time. There was like a taxidermied white-tailed deer with patches of macrame on it. And it was a real deer. And I thought, wow. And I loved, and a friend of mine is the manager there, and that's why I went to invite you to the party. But it was just really cool. So I went online when I got home, because I was like, well, I want to see what's up with this woman. She's like on the edge. Some of the stuff. And it was so beautiful what she said. And that's actually why I'm doing the talk today, is because of this artist. She reminded me of Viktor Frankl. And she said, and I love how she said it, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said, I made C's and D's in school. Don't give up on your dream. She said, I listen to that voice within me that gives meaning to my life. I listen and I do what it says, and it has brought me great success. I suggest that you do it. She said, I made C's and D's in school. The first art class she went to, the teacher said, give up now, you'll never be an artist. And this woman's things sell for like $15,000, $20,000 a piece. And she got that from listening. She got that from finding meaning in her life in a way that transcended just being an artist, but being an expressive force into the universe and believing it fully. I would guess probably that she does some sort of spiritual practice. I don't even know. But, and it may be something that I don't recognize as spiritual practice, but I'm sure that she does because she is connected. And I'll tell you, it really inspired me because you know, you guys, I have, and I appreciate your support on it all the time. You're my therapy session. I don't have to pay somebody $100 an hour. But sometimes I just feel like I blew it. You know, I had great opportunities when I was 19 and 20 years old in the music industry, and I had some things happen. But sometimes I just feel at 53, or what, am I 54 now? Well, I'm nervous about that now. I was born in 63. Help me math, people. My birthday's not yet, so wow, I just forgot how old I am. I'm 53. Thank goodness, I almost thought I lost a year. But at 53, I wonder if I have blown it, and what is the meaning of all this? Anybody else ever have these questions at all? Does this ring a bell at all, or is it just all perfect? And I think we find the answer not by evaluating our job and evaluating our relationships and evaluating our family life. We find it simply by accessing that part of us that is genius, that lays there dormant until we get in there to get it. Until we get in there to get it. It's there. There's a genius in everyone in here, and that is your meaning in this world, is to bring your genius out. It may not look like someone else's genius, but it's going to be your genius. It takes a lot of courage to do this, too. We all have that voice. You know, the minute that we feel something happen in our life that will bring us great meaning, I mean, at least I do. The minute I feel that great inspiration, like, wow, do this, the voice goes, well, I wonder how much that's going to cost. I wonder how long it would take. No one else has done exactly like that before. But, you know that little voice. You know what I'm talking about? The minute we get those inspirations, and the way to find meaning in our life is through listening and following through. I mean, that's how I ended up here. I would have never guessed. If you would have told me 7 years ago that I was going to be the spiritual director at a Unity Church, I would have laughed my behind off. Because my dad was a minister, as many of you know, and I used to say, I'll be anything but a minister. He has transitioned a couple years ago, and he's laughing his tail off now. So if you find the meaning of life fully and completely, please email me this week. I'm so grateful for people like Viktor Frankl who are able to help me to keep it light, is the only way that I can say. I mean, this week some interesting and weird things happen like they always do. Sometimes a little bit better, sometimes it's worse. But I just got kind of in a funk for a couple of days, and all I had to do was think about him, and I just thought, wow, you know, the situation that he was in, and he was able to continue to see goodness and to find great meaning in his life. I mean, that's about as harsh as it can get. And it just makes my life seem so easy. And then that snowballs into me feeling grateful. And that snowballs into me feeling really wonderful. And that snowballs into me feeling like I have great meaning. And that snowballs into making me feel like I just love myself so much for being so amazing. And that snowballs, you get it. We always think of snowballing as going the opposite way. But the snowball works the other way as well. And so what I know for us as individuals and at this spiritual community, there really is only one meaning for our life. And that is to express in whatever way our genius is, whatever we are, whatever our gift is to express that fully into the world without excuses, without doubt, being that light that the spiritual masters talked about, being the light in the world. And the most beautiful thing that can happen is when our meaning and the meaning in our life transcends into being of service. No matter what your job is, your occupation, you can still live a life of service within your job, in your work, wherever we are. So this morning, I know for us that within each of us, there is this amazing, vast, beautiful thing that is life. It is us. It moves through us. It moves as us. And it's up to us to accept if we want to go with the flow. To be the hands and the feet and the voice of God in this world. To accept our meaning to be whatever is happening in this moment. That I'm able to see you as who you are, and you're able to see me as who I am, transcending appearances, transcending the physical. And I am so grateful to the people that came before us, the Fillmores, who co-founded Unity, Ernest Holmes, who wrote the book called The Science of Mind. They began to show us the connection between our mind and our body and our great intention. Grateful to everyone that's ever stood up for love. Some were even imprisoned or killed for it, but they still stood up and said, this is what I am. This is the true meaning of love. It makes my life seem so easy, and for that I'm grateful. So this morning, there is a great meaning for your life. We just have to be willing to listen. Have the courage to take those steps. We're always guided, always protected, held in the hands of grace, forever safe in the arms of love. In this very moment, you are safe in the heart of God. This is the truth about you. This is the truth about me. And so it is.